See where Jerome is perched?
That's all I know.
Oh, he's your best man. Everyone asks where he is.
Get the best. I'm gonna hide in the back now.
Tea, orange tea. That's your mark. Here's your microphone.
Okay.
I'm just a reporter.
How's it going, everybody? This is so awesome.
Start it off.
Yeah. Hi, good afternoon. Before we get started, I'm going to get the Chief of Lac Seul to say a couple words.
Hey, Chief, how are you doing?
Good, young chief.
Yeah,
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Lac Seul First Nation and also the surrounding communities, I just want to welcome you to our territory, and it's a really honor to be standing with you. It was, 4 years ago, I shook hands with Thomas Mulcair, and I'm honored to shake your hand as well
Hey, thank you.
as you make
Thank you.
your run for Prime Minister.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to introduce our leader here. He's a hardworking leader. He believes in the North. He has made commitments to help the North and to help the Aboriginal people. He's also mentioned that he will speed up the process of truth and reconciliation, and that he will do a better job of that than the Liberals. So we're looking forward to that. So I just want to introduce our leader, Jagmeet Singh. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. First of all, thanks to the Chief of Lac Seul Nation. Give him some love. And I gotta say, I am so honored to be here to support my friend and candidate and the future MP for Kenora, Chief Rudy Turtle. Friends, there's a lot of excitement. I feel it in the room right now. I feel a lot of excitement. And I feel the excitement because, we're doing something different in this campaign. We're talking to people straight up and saying to them, you know what? You don't have to settle for less, right? You don't have to settle for less. The Liberal government's going to tell you, oh, be afraid of the Conservatives. Be afraid of them. They're going to come in and cut services. They are. They are. Like, that's what Conservatives do. They cut services. So I agree with them. But let's look at what Mr. Trudeau has done. Instead of real reconciliation, He's now decided, when the Human Rights Tribunal said Indigenous kids deserve equal funding. Makes sense, right? Something really simple. Indigenous kids should get equal funding. Well, on one side, Mr. Trudeau says he believes in reconciliation. On the other side, he's taking Indigenous kids to court. He's going to appeal a decision. I can't understand how he could do that. The decision is clear. Indigenous kids didn't get equal funding. They should get equal funding. I believe we shouldn't be taking them to court. We should be making sure they get equal funding. You know, we heard Mr. Trudeau talk about housing and the fact that people need housing. It's true, right? People need some housing. We need affordable housing. Well, Mr. Trudeau called it a crisis, said we've got to build affordable housing, but guess what he's spending? He's spending, that's true too. He's spending 19% less than Mr. Harper spent on housing. So how can he say that the Conservatives were bad when he's spending even less on housing than Mr. Harper spent? So again, he's trying to get you to settle for less. I'm going to say to him, no, we're not going to settle for less. We're going to build 500,000 affordable homes across this country so people have a good quality place to live. I want to say to families who need health care, we're proud of our healthcare system. It's a good healthcare system. But over the years, the federal government's been cutting funding. They've been cutting the funding to healthcare. And when they cut the healthcare funding, what happens is it's not there for you when you need it. And we know so many stories where families need healthcare and it's just not there for them. And one of the things we know would help out a lot would be if you could get the medication you need. You know, there's so many Canadians that can't afford medication. They can't afford the medication that they need to stay healthy, to stay alive. Now, Mr. Trudeau said that he was going to do something about it. He said he was going to bring down the cost of medication. But there was a simple thing he could have done. The board that sets the prices for medication said we need a new list of countries to lower the cost of medication. Just give us a new list of countries and we can set our prices lower. 4 years later, Mr. Trudeau didn't do it. We're wondering, why didn't he do it? It's an easy thing. It would have cost no money. Guess what happened? He met with Big Pharma and the big insurance lobbyists over 875 times. Him and his government met with these lobbyists, and he would rather protect their profits than help out families that can't afford medication. So what I want to say to Canadians, in a country as rich as ours, if you need medication, you should use your health card, not your credit card. We are going to deliver universal pharmacare for everyone in our country. Another big problem that we hear a lot about is dental care. People can't afford to get their teeth taken care of. You could go into a hospital and get surgery on your heart. You get complicated surgery on your joints. But if you need some care for your teeth, all they'll do is give you a painkiller and send you home. And we all know if you don't have dental health, it's going to hurt your overall health. It makes no sense that we somehow just ignore a whole part of our body. So what we're proposing is this. If you elect New Democrats, we're going to put in place a universal dental care program for all. Absolutely. And we're going to start immediately within 1 year with a new program that's going to cover 4 million Canadians. All those families that earn less than $70,000 on day one of a new Democratic government, we're going to put in place a program that's going to make sure you're covered, that your dental care is going to be covered. This is going to save thousands of dollars for families. That's what we're committing to doing. Now people are going to say, well, this is going to cost a lot. This is going to be hard to do. I want to put it to you, this is all a matter of choices. These are all choices that we can make. Now, Mr. Trudeau last year, he gave $14 billion away to the richest corporations so that they could buy corporate jets and limousines. That was his choice. Our plan to make sure 4 million Canadians have dental care services right away is going to cost less than $1 billion, $856 million. That means with one decision that Mr. Trudeau made to give money to the richest, we could have covered our plan 4 times over. It's a matter of choices. And on top of that, we're going to do something that Mr. Trudeau's not ready to do. We know that hardworking people, middle income, low income, small businesses, hardworking Canadians are paying their fair share. But the richest Canadians, those at the very top, they're not paying their fair share. So what we're going to put in place is a super wealth tax. If someone has more than $20 million in fortune, we're going to ask them to pay 1% on their wealth. And that's going to raise $70 billion. Now, I think that's something worth laughing about. And so I want to make it really clear. The people at the very top are not paying their fair share. We're going to make sure they do. We're going to invest in people. Families are not going to have to spend a cent more. In fact, families are going to save money. We've got the courage to take on the rich. The reason is this. Conservatives and liberals, they work for the powerful. They work for the rich corporations. I don't work for them. I don't work for the powerful and rich corporations. I work for all of you. And when you elect a new Democrat, you get someone who's going to fight for you, who's going to be on your side, who's in it for you, who's going to fight for you to make sure your life is better. That is what we're going to do together. This room here is going to work really hard. I know you're going to get Rudy elected in this riding. We're going to get new Democrats elected across Canada. And we are going to fight and push forward for Canadians building a better country. Let's do it together, my friends. Let's make it happen. Thank you. Friends, we're going to take some questions from the media, so just hang tight. And if you like my answers, you can applaud. You don't have to. We're going to take some questions now. Yep.
Hey, here in the back,
I can see
Kevin Gallagher, CTV National News. So as you continue to point out, you're very disappointed with Justin Trudeau's decision to challenge the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal's decision to give Indigenous children, compensation for their denial of welfare services and being stripped from their families.
Yep.
Given all this, would you still consider supporting a Liberal government in a minority situation with their record on Indigenous issues?
So I want to answer your question, but I can't accept the frame. So I'm going to change the frame a bit. When I form a new Democratic government as Prime Minister, and if that government is a minority government, I will take the support and I'll work with anyone who's willing to put in place the pieces of justice that we want to put in place, that's willing to help us ensure that all Indigenous communities have clean drinking water, that ensure we do not take Indigenous kids to court, that ensures that we're actually fighting honestly and genuinely towards reconciliation. I'll work with any party. The only party I've ruled out is Conservatives because they don't share my values.
Earlier today, I asked you what your plan was for tackling the boil water advisories that so many Indigenous communities suffer from. What is the plan for an NDP government in terms of investment in infrastructure on Indigenous reservations, communities, what have you?
Yep.
Can you lay out your plan as to
Sure.
what the NDP would do in this situation?
So first, it's a matter of priorities, and I want to make the priorities really clear. When governments want to do something, they get it done. When Mr. Trudeau wanted to buy a pipeline, he didn't ask how he could find the $4.5 billion. He got the money, he bought the pipeline. So part of the answer is the priority, the will, the desire. I want to make it really clear. A new Democratic government is committed to justice and fairness, and we're committed to making sure everyone in our country has clean drinking water. So it's a commitment, it's a will, it's a priority. The second part of the question is, how are we going to do it? Well, one clear step we know we can take immediately is what the PBO has pointed out. The Parliamentary Budget Office pointed out that the promise that the Liberals made to clean drinking water and the amount of money that they're promising and how much it's actually going to cost, there's a gap. They say they're basically $2 billion short or $1.8 billion. So what I would do first and foremost is say, I would commit to ending that gap, ending the gap in money that the PBU points out, that you can't promise to do this thing if you're not actually going to pay the money to do the thing. So I'm committing right now to closing that gap, to funding the $1.8 billion needed, and making sure we make this a priority. We work with all Indigenous communities, with the infrastructure investments, with the training, and with the upkeep to make sure that this problem is solved once and for all.
Mike Couture from Global National. Mr. Singh, every candidate, when they're out on the hustings like this, Justin Trudeau, the same thing, all the good intentions behind the promises, obviously. One would think that he had every intention of ending boil water advisories on all First Nations territories by 2021. You say that you will do it sooner, and you say it's a matter of choices. Are you not at all concerned that once you get into government, you will see that there are landmines, pitfalls that you didn't expect, and you're going to be overpromising to these people and not being able to deliver on your promise?
And that's a fair question. Um, what we know is what's in front of us. And one of the commitments that I'm making right now is we know that there's a limited amount of resources, yes, but there's choices that we can make with those limited resources. And there's certain choices I wouldn't make. So when Mr. Trudeau gave $14 billion to the richest corporations, that's a choice that New Democrats that I would not have made and I would not making going forward. When I look at the PBO's report that says that to clean drinking water, it needs a commitment of $1.8 billion, I would make that commitment. Now, I have a plan to take our fiscal reality very seriously. I'm talking about how to increase revenue on the richest Canadians and how to make the right choices to invest in people. So I'm committing to Canadians that I will make the right choices that are going to put people first, that are going to invest in people, and particularly that in this situation are going to invest in Indigenous people to make sure they get a basic thing of clean drinking water. I don't accept any excuses in 2019 that we cannot invest, make the right choices, use the technology that we have to clean all drinking water in Canada.
In fairness and with all due respect, people have heard this before from every candidate from every party. Why are you going to be different somehow than others, other than saying you're just going to make it happen?
Well, the big difference is this. Governments in Ottawa have been liberal and conservative, and they've worked for the rich. They've made choices that have consistently helped out the powerful and the wealthy. That has been their priority. And they've made choices that back up that priority. They're too connected to, they're too influenced by, they're too closely rallied to the interests of the powerful corporations. I don't work for them. They don't give me money. They don't support me. I'm in it for these good folks in this room. I fight for the good folks in these room. And the difference is New Democrats aren't in it for the rich. We're not in it for the powerful. We're in it for people. And that's what makes us different. That's what makes me different. And that's what we're proud to say is why we're going to do the things we commit to do.
Oui, Jérôme Labbé, Radio-Canada, ici M. Singh.
Oui.
Elisabeth May, chef du Parti vert aujourd'hui, a déclaré qu'elle voudrait modifier la loi sur les Indiens pour permettre aux communautés autochtones de se soustraire de cette loi si c'est ce que veulent les communautés. Est-ce que c'est une bonne idée selon vous?
On veut faire quelque chose de différent. Ce qu'on veut faire, c'est de mettre en œuvre la Déclaration des Nations Unies sur les droits des communautés autochtones. Cette déclaration, c'est vraiment une nouvelle façon de créer des lois qui respectent les nations distinctes des communautés autochtones. Ça va avoir un impact qui est plus profond et c'est vraiment la façon qu'on veut aller de l'avant, c'est de mettre en œuvre la déclaration avec tous les pouvoirs et tous les règlements qui suivent.
In English, sir?
Sure. So our approach is going to be very different. Our approach is to make sure we move forward in a new direction with First Nations people, with Indigenous peoples, with Inuit and Métis. What we're proposing is that the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples outlines the rights, outlines a framework that will allow us to move forward in a way that is an equal partnership, that is not a top-down approach, that it is working with nations to nations as equals and as partners. And that's the approach that I want to take.
Et pour ceux qui, comme moi, je vous l'avoue, connaissent mal la déclaration sur les droits des peuples autochtones, en quoi cette déclaration-là aurait-elle un impact sur la loi sur les Indiens, spécifiquement sur la loi sur les Indiens?
En fait, c'est une transformation parce qu'en fait, la déclaration inclut des règlements, des propos dans lesquels on donne le pouvoir comme des partenariats égaux avec les communautés autochtones. Comment on a des ententes, comment on travaille ensemble pour les projets. ça complètement change la façon de le faire. Donc, pour moi, c'est vraiment quelque chose de transformatif qui peut vraiment nous aider à réussir à atteindre la réconciliation.
Sorry, just in English, and I just want to be clear. So, would an NDP government not work to either reform or totally redo or strike away the terribly named and terribly outdated Indian Act?
Yes, and so what we're saying is that our approach is going to be based on. So Ms. May's approach, as Jerome brought up, was to allow people to withdraw from components of the act, and I'm saying I want to transform it entirely with the principles of the United Nations Declaration, and that transformative piece of legislation would in fact change our relationship dramatically, so that we move forward as equal partners. And so I want to transform the relationship. I don't want to allow just a minor modification. I want to transform it based on the principles of the Declaration.
David Thurton, CBC News.
Yep. Where are you at, brother?
Oh, right here.
Okay, cool.
A quick question. Any plan to visit the territories, specifically Nunavut, Iqaluit? And would you commit to separating the Ministry of Northern Affairs so that it is separate and apart from, you know, Ministry or Department responsible for Indigenous issues? Because the issues concerning the North are just so distinct. Is that something an NDP government would commit to doing?
Thank you for the questions. On the first part with the territories, I'd love to get to there's a lot of places I want to get to in this campaign, and I'm not sure if we're going to be able to make it everywhere I want to go. So we're going to try our best to get across as many places as we can. I'm not sure that that's on our itinerary now, but I would love to be in the north and the far north as well. So it's something where my team can give you more details on where we're headed. I would love to, and I'm going to make sure I get out there whenever I can, as soon as I can. And then with your second question, the way we reform the ministries and the way we organize them, I think that there's things we can do to make them better. But I think that the underlying values, the underlying principle is this. For me, reconciliation can't just be words, it has to be in actions. And those actions involve taking bold steps to deal with some of the clear things that we know we have to deal with. Clean drinking water, Indigenous kids getting equal funding, quality housing, access to education. I mean, these are just the basic foundational principles for fairness and justice. And I want to start with those. And we can look at ways to improve the ministries, but I know that there's just so many basic steps we've got to take right away. And I want to focus on those.
And Monday will be the first English language leaders debate where all the leaders are present. What's going to be your focus? What's going to be your strategy?
I'm going to show Canadians that they do not have to settle for less. I'm going to put the contrast really clear in front of them. You've got Mr. Trudeau, said a lot of pretty words and failed to deliver, and chose, in fact, not to deliver, chose to help out the powerful instead of people. Then we got Conservatives who are going to offer you a couple of dollars in your pocket, but are going to cut the services that you and your families depend on. And so I'm going to say to them, you do not have to choose between Conservatives and Liberals. You do not have to settle for less. You can dream big. And I want to help achieve those dreams. I want to invest in people. I want to expand our healthcare. I want to take care of young people, make sure that we waive all student debt, all the interest on student debt immediately. I want to make sure we take bold steps forward in building housing. I want to build a brighter future, and I want Canadians to know that we can do it together.
Hi there. So you had mentioned your campaign trail, and I guess my main question is why Sioux Lookout? I have done my research. No, seriously, no. Not to say don't come here, but you're the first federal leader on the campaign trail who I've seen have actually made a stop outside of Thunder Bay, and I think that's huge, by the way. So thank you. But why? Why is it so important? Why is it so important for you and your team?
Because I wanted to meet these great people in this room. And I want Rudy to win. Chief Rudy Turtle is awesome. He's going to be an incredible voice for the people of Kenora in this riding. And I wanted to show folks how committed I am to fighting hard to make sure this great leader wins. And that's why I'm here to support him. And I'm here to support him and support the people of Sioux Lookout and the people of Kenora.
other questions over here?
Sure, I'll just take a question, but I was supposed to take media questions, but I'll do that one to I'll do that one to wrap up. It's a good question. You know, I was at one of the rallies. A lot of young people went out to rallies. There's thousands and thousands of kids that went to the streets, and they're basically saying, "This is our future. If you don't act now, we're afraid of our future." And everyone in this room would do whatever it takes to help out their kids. We love our kids and our grandkids. We care about them. And if they're worried and afraid, we can't let them be afraid. We've got to make sure they know that we're doing everything we can to fight this crisis. Another thing, there's a lot of indigenous wisdom and knowledge and teachings, traditional knowledge that can help us in the fight against the climate crisis. And we've got to make sure the indigenous communities are at the table, at the decision-making table, to help with the fight against the climate crisis. It, for me, is a massive issue. When I was a kid, my mom taught me that we're all connected, all of us, but she also taught me that we're connected to the planet, to the air we breathe, to the land, to the water. That connection is very deep. And so for me, it's a personal thing. I want to fight with all my effort, with all my force, to make sure young people have a bright future. Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you for this great crowd. You're amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much. And here one more time, we're going to make sure that Rudy Turtle wins. And big shout out to my brother, Sol Mamakwa.